Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله قال الله عز وجل في القرآن المجيد يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون صدق الله العظيم أما بعد. We begin by praising Allah. We praise Him, we seek His help, we ask for His forgiveness. And as Muslims we declare that nobody deserves to be worshipped besides Allah. And we declare that Muhammad was the last and final messenger that has been sent for our guidance and for the guidance of all humanity until the end of time. Respected brothers, sisters, the month of Ramadan is around the corner. And when we reflect upon the world's Muslim population, there are about 1.8 billion Muslims in the world out of about 7 billion population. That's about 23% of the entire world. That's a very large portion of people. And if you were to do a survey of all the different Muslims in the world and you ask them, what does Ramadan mean to you? The month is coming up. What are you looking forward for? What are you looking forward to? What are you expecting? And what does Ramadan signify for you? And you will get a lot of different answers. And the answers will be quite subjective. The answers will range from, I'm expecting my mom makes the best food I've ever seen, in Ramadan. Other people will say, late nights and, talking to our friends. Other people will say, we're feeding the poor and, feeding homeless people, doing all sorts of different things in Ramadan. And these are all great. These are all benefits. These are all blessings of the month of Ramadan that comes. But we should always remind ourselves, we should always reflect and realize that there's two ways to answer a question. There's a way to answer a question in terms of what does something mean to you, and there's a way to answer the question in terms of what were you supposed to get out of that month? What were you supposed to get out of that action? What was defined for you in terms of your job description by the boss, by the one who is in charge. So that's what I want to reflect upon initially. There are two verses in the Quran where Allah specifically tries to explain to us the purpose and the meaning of Ramadan and what we do in this month that's coming up in just 2 weeks. So let's start with the first one. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. He says, oh, you who believe. He speaks to the believers. Those of you who are already Muslim, you guys need to listen up. And then he says, Kutiba alaykumus siyam. Fasting has been prescribed for you. Meaning that there's a responsibility, a prescription, like your doctor gives you. They write a prescription, they give it to you, and they say, this is what you're supposed to take. Now you can follow it halfway, you can throw it away, you say, I'm not going to fulfill the prescription. You can do whatever you want with it. But the prescription is there. This is something that you need. This is something that's going to benefit you if you follow the instructions. If you go to a counselor, you have family issues, they may write you some action items. Your husband should do this, wife should do this, the kids need to do this. And this is going to help the entire family. It's a prescription. If you follow it, it's going to be good for you. If you don't want to follow it, you want to follow it halfway, you could do whatever you want. So Allah says, Kutiba alaykumus siyam. Fasting has been prescribed for you by Allah. Allah is speaking here. Kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum. The way it was prescribed for those people in the past. Meaning you're not the first community that's ever fasted. Other people have fasted, other communities prior to you of Muslims in the past, from the different prophets that were sent, they fasted in the past as well. And then he says at the end, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. So that you might become mindful, or perhaps conscious, or sometimes you can say, some people translate as fearful of Allah. Right? So you can become conscious, so that you can become mindful, so that you can become aware. Now what that means is at the end of the verse, Allah gives us the answer that many people are asking when they're children, or even when they're adults, is that why do you fast? And people come up with all sorts of different explanations. Say we fast because we want to feel like what poor people are going through. Well, what if you're poor? You still have to fast anyways. You already know what poor people are going through. You don't need to feel it anyways. But you still got to fast. So what's the purpose of fasting for a person who's already poor? A person who already doesn't have that much food? That can't be the original. That's a wisdom behind it. But it's not the actual purpose behind itself. So the purpose has been defined by our Creator. And it's been mentioned clearly in the Quran. We just have to read it carefully. It says, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. So that you might acquire taqwa. Right? So la'alla actually means in Arabic, it has several different meanings. One of them, it gives you an explanation of this is supposed to be done in order to achieve this other thing. So if you do this, then you're going to be able to achieve this thing. There's like a causality taking place. So one of the things Allah is saying is that if you want to acquire taqwa, taqwa means being conscious of God. Taqwa means being mindful of God and avoiding the things that He's prohibited and doing the things that He's prescribed. How do you acquire that? How do you build that in your life? How do you become a better Muslim? So He's saying fasting is one of the ways to achieve this. And the second meaning of la'alla, it has a sense of uncertainty that, you know what, not every single person who fasts is going to acquire taqwa. Not every single person who goes through the month of Ramadan and abstains from food and drink and, their stomach is hurting and they're thinking, man, I just can't wait for that sip of water after sunset. Not every single one of those people who feel that, they're not all going to acquire taqwa. So the la'alla doesn't mean it's a guarantee. It means perhaps, so that you might, maybe you will acquire taqwa. But there's one more aspect of the word la'alla which is interesting in Arabic. And that is that there's hope. There's the word itself, it has hope built in. Meaning that it's likely, it's hopeful, we hope that you're going to be able to acquire this thing. So it's not impossible. And it's very likely that if you do everything correctly, you'll be able to acquire that. So that's the first aspect of Ramadan. If you think about what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in this verse, He's saying that we've prescribed fasting for you in this month of Ramadan that's going to be coming up. And you're not the first person, you're not the first community that's ever fasted, so you don't need to feel like you're being overburdened or something. In fact, fasts in the past were much more difficult. In fact, I was teaching a class on the history of Judaism, just last week. And what's interesting is in Judaism, when they fast, it's a 24-hour fast. They have to fast from sunset all the way until sunset, until night again. So it becomes 24 hours. And that's no food, no water, just like us in some of the fasts that they do. So it's 24-hour cycle. We're looking at like 14 hours or 16 hours or whatever it may be. It's actually much less than that. Of course, you can say it lasts for a month. They only do it for a few days. But still, 24 hours is 24 hours. We're not the first people who fasted. And our fast is not the most difficult fast that exists out there. I can guarantee you that. So it's not that overburdensome. But if we do it, and we do it with the right frame of mind, we can achieve the purpose of Ramadan, what we're supposed to achieve. And it's not losing weight, although that might happen, which is great for a lot of people. It's not just health, which health benefits have been proven that, when you fast, the health benefits are there for your body. But that's not the intention behind it. That's not the ultimate goal. Those are like side benefits. The ultimate goal is that you can come out a better Muslim. And what you should do is you should compete against yourself. Don't compete against everyone else. Compete against yourself. And the simple way to do that is to look at what you did last Ramadan and you beat that record. Whatever you did last Ramadan, you do better this time. You add more. You read Quran, you read more Quran. You were feeding the poor, you do more. You fed other people, you invited them for iftar, you do more than that. So you try to beat your own record. So that's the first part. The second verse that I want to talk about today is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us what the purpose behind Ramadan is. Not only the purpose of fasting, but why Ramadan? Why not in the month of Muharram, which is also an important month? Why not in the month of Dhul Hijjah? Why not in some other month? Why Ramadan specifically? Allah tells us in the Quran, شَهْرُ رَمَضَانَ الَّذِي أُنزِلَ فِيهِ الْقُرْآنِ. He says that the month of Ramadan in which the Quran was revealed is Hudal Linnas, is a guide or a guidance to all people. So what is he saying? That the month of Ramadan in which the Quran was revealed is a guide for people. So this guidebook that we were given, the Quran, was revealed in the month of Ramadan. And it's very important to understand exactly what Allah means that this book is a guidebook. Because for many Muslims, what does the Quran represent? For some of them, it represents some type of amulet, some type of talisman that you just hang around your neck and you don't have to read it, you don't have to think about it, you don't have to reflect upon it, and it just protects you. And if you just put a Quran somewhere in the house, and the Quran has blessings, no doubt, but you put a Quran somewhere and it acts like this physical thing that just manifests energy and powers around and it'll solve everything. You don't need to put in any other effort. That's the easiest way. People like the easy way, right? It's the easiest way to believe that that's all you got to do. Like that's the function of the Quran. It just like has this magical healing power, but you don't need to put any effort into doing anything. Some people believe that, right? Some people, that's their perspective. Other people, their perspective is you just read the Quran. Your goal, your responsibility is to just read. Whether you understand or you don't understand, that's not important. The more you read, the more reward you get. Which is true. There's a hadith about that, right? The more Quran you read, the more reward you get. But there's no effort or little effort put into actually trying to understand what the Quran is saying, to reflect and ponder what it's saying, and to try and say, hey, how can this actually help me in my life? So it becomes like something, again, you just keep reading it, and it'll just bring the energy and the blessing, and everything will automatically be solved. So someone is going through, a difficulty with employment. They say, okay, if you just keep reading Quran, doesn't matter if you soup up your resume, doesn't matter how many hours you spend looking for a job, somehow you just keep reading and have the Quran with you, is going to all of a sudden solve your problems. There's an issue going on in your household, people are fighting, families fighting internally, people are gossiping, kids don't want to talk to their parents, all of that stuff. We can resolve this, we can solve all of it. We'll just turn on the Quran and just let it play. We won't try to understand that we have major communication problems. Let's go and try and figure out how we should talk to each other. No, we don't need to focus on that. We don't need to focus on the fact that someone in the household has an anger problem. We don't need to focus on the fact that some people feel that they're entitled to certain things, and that's causing tension and conflict in the family. Just push play, and automatically all the problems will go away. And the thing is, this is not to negate that there's barakah and blessing in the Quran, but this shallow mentality is causing many problems. And Allah is explaining to us that the book, He did not say the book is an energy that's going to somehow cause this, solutions for everything. I think the book is a book of guidance. And a book of guidance has to be read, understood, reflected upon, and then implemented. That's what a guidebook does. You can't take an instruction manual to assemble a piece of furniture or a computer or something, and you just read it, kind of recite it, and it's not going to all of a sudden assemble the computer. You have to understand it, then you have to apply it, and you have to do the work, and then it's going to work. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So Allah continues, He says, the month of Ramadan in which the Quran was revealed is a guide. The Quran is a guide to people. وَبَيِّنَاتٍ مِّنَ الْهُدَى. And there are clear signs of guidance there. Meaning anyone who reads it, they will see, the signs are clear for people who have an open mind. For people who are intelligent enough and their heart is pure enough to understand. And that's why when people accept Islam, when you ask them, well, what made you accept Islam? I mean, alhamdulillah, people accept Islam every day in this country, despite the propaganda of all the media stations. From Fox and CNN and all of that, all the bad stuff they show about Muslims are this and Muslims are that and everything. People accept Islam, alhamdulillah, every single day in this country and in the world. Despite people watching all of that stuff. And really, it's not because of our efforts. We're not the best carriers of Islam. It's really by the blessing of Allah. Well, it's not because people are doing some amazing work. We do a little bit, alhamdulillah, but it's happening, alhamdulillah. So why? You ask them, why did you accept Islam? They say, I just read the Quran, and it was clear. Clear, bayyinat. Bayyin means clear. It was just clear, it made sense. I've read the other scriptures, just didn't resonate with me, something it didn't seem to fit. And when it came to the Quran, it worked. Everything just made sense. It answered the questions that I had. So there's guidance there. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says after that, wal furqan. And this is very important, that the Quran is a furqan. A furqan means a criterion for distinguishing between what is right and wrong. We live in an age of moral relativism. The ideas of what's moral and what's immoral are changing every single day. People don't have any clear stances, they don't have any clear guidelines to live by. And this is extremely important. Just yesterday, some experiments were carried out. What they had done, they took some mice stem cells, and they were actually able to produce a semi-fetus without using either an egg or sperm involved in the process. This was like a big breakthrough. It didn't produce anything, but they got close. And what's happening is, you look at the experimentation that's taking place. Experimentation in all the fields of science. And a lot of this is excellent, right? But there's no moral limits. There's no guidelines in terms of what is ethical, what is unethical. If you have some product that you're going to make, you want to test it on people, yeah, just test it on, grab some people who would not complain. Grab some people from some, poor country or something, and just test this chemical on them. That's what's been happening in the 20th century. They've been testing chemicals to develop biological chemical weapons on people. Ethics are not there. As long as there's progress, science and technology, no moral framework whatsoever. When it comes to relationships with people, no moral framework. When it comes to determining what's best for people, if they're, they decide that they would like to change their gender or they would like to change their orientation or whatever it is, there's no framework in terms of what is good for you, what is right and wrong in an absolute moral sense. And that's what the Quran offers us. When it comes to abortion, when is the time, what time is a human being that you can just kill that human being? Is it 3 months in pregnancy? 5 months in pregnancy, 8.5 months in pregnancy? Or is a child considered to be a human being just because it's born? Or when it reaches the age of maturity? Or when it starts talking? When can you abort or kill that child? And when does it become a child? And whose responsibility is that? It's a huge debate in this country, right? Where you have no moral framework to decide between these issues. You can have any opinions. can be argued on an intellectual level, but there's no basis for that, because there's no framework. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us when He says that this Quran is a furqan, something to reflect upon in the month of Ramadan and before the month of Ramadan. So then He says, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. So because of this reason, whoever witnesses the month of Ramadan, whoever lives to the month of Ramadan, they should fast. So see the connection there? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that the month of Ramadan is the month in which the Quran was revealed. What's the purpose of the Quran? What's so great about the Quran? A lot of kids, they grow up in Muslim families and they ask, well, we were raised with the Quran and, we were taught it's good and everything, but what's so great about it? I don't understand. What's the point? My parents used to read it in Ramadan and we were told we have to read it, and we had like a Quran teacher and he would just get mad at us, or he would, bend our finger or whatever, if we made a mistake in recitation. That's the perspective that many people have of the Quran. They say, what's so great about it? And you could have a whole seminar on it, but among the things is that it's a book of guidance. And it's a book that has a criterion for distinguishing between what is right and wrong. And when you don't have that criteria in your life, you will be making some very big mistakes and very big decisions that can really destroy yourself, and you can destroy society. So the Quran is something very valuable. So if you go and reach the month of Ramadan, inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow all of us to live till Ramadan so we can benefit from it. If we reach the month of Ramadan, then we need to be reflecting on the Quran. We need to be thinking about it, and then we need to fast. And while we're fasting, we're reading Quran, we're trying to understand the Quran. We should try to develop taqwa, which is getting closer to Allah by being mindful and conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So once this month is understood, we just need to make sure we focus on a few things. Quick recap, okay? Number one, we want to try to gain taqwa at the end of the month of Ramadan. Make that your goal. Your goal is to become more conscious of Allah, more conscious of God after the month is done and within the month than you were previously, and than you were in the previous month of previous Ramadan. Number two, we are going to learn self-control by abstaining from food, drink, and intimacy. These are the three strongest desires that human beings have in them, according to psychologists. These are the strongest desires. These are the things where people mess up a lot. It's very easy to mess up on this because you crave it. And it's lawful as long as it's done in the right way. But the goal is this. If you can avoid in Ramadan what is haram, then you can avoid outside of Ramadan. If you can avoid what is halal, what's permissible, but it's not allowed in Ramadan, you can avoid the haram throughout the rest of the year. Food, drink, all of these things, they're allowed. They're halal, they're not haram. Apple juice is halal, but it's haram in Ramadan during the daytime. If you can avoid something that is halal, you can avoid something that's haram because the craving isn't as great. The craving is greater at that time. And make this Ramadan the time to quit certain bad habits that you have. So if you have some bad habits and you know them, smoking, pornography, arguing, addiction to your smartphone, because you don't realize that it's giving you a dopamine rush every single time you open it. Addiction to social media. You have to just keep checking Snapchat or Instagram or Facebook. Someone responded to your comment, or someone didn't click like on your comment, and now you're getting frustrated. Why didn't that person click like? And you get happy when more people click likes. It becomes a gambling type mentality. There's actually a lot of research being done now that people are addicted to their smartphones, and the smartphones are making them dumb. Right? They can't remember things. They're getting distracted all the time because there's always notifications coming and distracting you. If these are your habits, and you need to realize if these habits are affecting your life, then you need to try to quit some of these bad habits. You need to get out of this cycle, right? If your habit is you're addicted to television, you just can't stop every single episode that comes in the new season, you have to watch it, try to remove that in the month of Ramadan. Go home today and just open your phone and think about which apps waste most of my time and delete them before Ramadan. Delete them, and you can re-download them after Ramadan if you need them. But you don't need them in the month of Ramadan. So get rid of all of that stuff. Be prepared that, you know what? I'm not going to be distracted. I'm not going to have these issues. And I'm going to try to focus on as much as I can. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us reach the month of Ramadan. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us change and to become better Muslims this Ramadan. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us and guide us at all times and in all things we do. Ameen. Astaghfirullah li wa lakum wa li sa'iril muslimin fastaghfiruhu innahu huwal ghafurur rahim. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah, wa ba'd. So today, alhamdulillah, we've been talking about the importance of Ramadan, which is coming up. It's very close. And we want to make sure that we change ourselves for the better. We want to make sure we understand what the purpose of Ramadan is. We understand that this is the month in which the Quran was revealed. We want to understand what the Quran is and why it's important that we actually read it. Why is it important that we study it? Why is it important that we understand it and we try to act upon it as much as we can? So try to make a program for yourself. And I'm doing this personally, and it really helps. Make a program of the things that you want to accomplish in the month of Ramadan. Set a schedule. Even if it's 1 hour, set a schedule. Say, I'm going to read 15 minutes of Quran right there at that time. And you put it in, block in there. Because otherwise people get tired and they're like, I need extra sleep and the food is making me irritated. I can't do it right now. Put it in there. So I'm going to read the translation of the Quran for 10 minutes. Put it in that block. I'm going to give some charity every week. Put it in a block of time. This is when I'm going to do it. This is how much I'm going to give. Put it in a block. I'm only going to check my email 2 times a day. Put it in there and make sure you stick to your commitment. And you'll realize, inshallah, if you do that, you will change your life for the better. If you decide, you understand what you need to change in your life, there's no other time that's better to change your life than Ramadan. We don't have New Year's resolutions and all of that stuff. Why? Because in Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helps you in a way you can't even understand. And there's so much blessing. People are charged, people are energized, they're ready. See, people start becoming better Muslims automatically all around you. So try to make that change, inshallah, this coming month. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us and guide us at all times. We ask Allah to help those people who are going through difficulties, those who are suffering. We ask Allah to alleviate the challenges that people have in their homes, in their families, in our society. O Allah, help spread the message of Islam in this country, in this community. Remove the obstacles and the propaganda that's being spread against your message and against your Prophet. O Allah, help us to live as Muslims and only take away our lives when we're ready to die in a state of true faith. Ameen. Subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdik. Nastaghfiruka Allah wa natubu ilayk. Wa aqim as-salah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya ala as-salati, hayya ala al-falah. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. Please make sure your line is straight, shoulder to shoulder. Let's not leave any gaps in between. Allahu Akbar. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I thank Sheikh Mustafa Omar, alhamdulillah, very much give us the topic to follow what was said. Inshallah, and at the end of Ramadan, we'll have, inshallah, be close to Taqwa in our heart. Those who do not know, Sheikh Mustafa Omar, founder, the dean of the California Islamic University, mashallah, they have a great program, so you can see him afterwards and get more information from him. Tonight, we have Welcome Ramadan special family night, the ultimate goal of fasting with our Sheikh Sayyid Saduq. There's an important request actually from our masjid, from the Shura, which is that we have preparing the building or the facility for Ramadan. So there's a lot of expenses coming up, such as cleaning of the carpet, painting, and other things. So a brother, alhamdulillah, has donated LED lights for the parking lot. The lights themselves are about $7,000. Alhamdulillah, he's donated already, but we need to get the scissor lifts and those kind of things. So we need about $10,000 to raise, inshallah, this weekend. So if you can contribute towards that, that would be great, inshallah. Okay, for the iftars themselves, inshallah, please sponsor the iftars for the night iftar from we get anywhere from 200 people coming in to open the fast to up to 500 on the weekends. So as you know, having somebody at your house and having to open the fast, you also get their ajr as well without increasing your ajr. So please sponsor what you can for the iftars, inshallah. Quran Academy will have inshallah Quran competition. The flyers are available outside. Please sign up early. The Hajj Committee has an amazing Hajj package starting at $65.90. Please see the Masjid website and for details as well as the flyer outside. For this coming week, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday night, our Sheikh will be going on the 5th of Siyam. So please come in and take advantage of that. It will be 8:30 to Isha prayers. There's a brother who passed away. Majid, father-in-law,